Hello, this is the Eye of the Swarm, and today we're gonna have a tour of the Western Australian Museum, or the Perth Museum as I like to call it. And as we go into these stairs, the first area we would have a look at is this changing area, which shows different environmental changes that we have caused. Though, aside from this nice camel skeleton, there isn't much here. Now, let's get into the wildlife section, which has a nice variety of creatures. This wildlife section has a variety of things within it. This first hall deals with creatures of the woods, from funguses to several mammals. There's even a bit with a picture of a pretty good looking spider. There's also a stuffed wedge-tailed eagle in here, which is pretty cool. And yeah, this section has a decent amount of creatures, but if you know anything about me and there's the spider, you would know that I'm a fan of prehistoric creatures, and well, it certainly has some prehistoric animals. But before we go onto there, there's this nice aquatic section, even with this model of a great white shark and a few other sea-going life forms, though there is a much better ocean area which will be shown after the various prehistoric creatures. But this is pretty nice. I mean, the stuffed penguins and otters and stuff are pretty cool, as well as this family of birds. But I've actually been to this museum a long time ago, and yeah, it's very different from it used to be. I mean, I did not recognize this lizard before, and that's actually a real-life lizard. Oh, and that thing we saw after these bees actually has some cupboards, which are pretty nice. If you open them, there are these little shows, including that cabinet. Now, as we go into the prehistoric section, we have this nice little timeline, which even shows some mass extinctions. And one of the first exhibits is this. This is supposed to be a walkway that several early Silurian arthropods crawled upon, which is pretty cool. However, not as cool as this. This picture showing various Devonian fish, even a nice little Dunkleostrix, which might be closer to size than you think. Though, alongside it is a picture showing various species of fish from the Paleozoic. And the species involved are... There are several fossil fish here. And we're gonna start with Griffithonanthus whitey, aka the duck-billed lungfish, which is a species I did not know, but I don't know how I can incorporate it, and there doesn't seem to be that much information on this fish. There are quite a few different fish species here, but I think number one is Magnanorus, a type of tiny placoderm, which is actually discovered in Western Australia, and it's pretty cool. Doesn't seem to be that much pop culture, though we'll get a much more colorful one later with me. The second fish here is this Custeomorph, which is actually a clade of placoderms, which is pretty nice. And the number 3 fish is... There's also another placoderm, which I couldn't really get that much research into, but most of these species are known. There's also a small shark jaw, which is very preserved. and really surprising. Anyway, there's a variety of fish species in here, and I don't know if I can cover them all since they're pretty rare. Though I do want to make a comment on that duck-shaped creature, the Humonality. It is actually a type of ancient herbivore. Think of it like a placoderm equivalent of a parrotfish of all creatures. And there are many different species of these weird fish creatures, and hopefully I can cover all of them later on, especially in my Minecraft Jurassic Park series. Now let's move on to these marine reptiles and ammonites. The plesiosaur and ichthyosaur monuments are pretty cool, but let's get into the actual fossils. But first, there's this little thing showing the convergent evolution between ichthyosaurs, dolphins, and sharks, which is pretty nice, all in respects, and it's a pretty nice little thing. Anyway, now we move on to fossils. In this little case, we actually have several fossils, including Ichthyosaurus, the fish lizard, and a rather famous creature that has appeared in many series, and I cannot really identify the other prehistoric creatures, so we're mainly going to go with this guy. And well, one of their appearances is in Fossil Fighters as this cool looking coloration, and Mo from The Land Before Time. And while all these marine reptiles are cool, they're nothing compared to this sauropod, which I think this is the species. This is apparently a titanoform, which is a member of the titanosaur group of dinosaurs. Though I don't know if this is meant to be an actual species, but that's what I found from my research. Anyway, there's also these dinosaur footprints of different species, but you should probably check that out for yourself. But it's an important way of how we understand dinosaurs, and there's even a thing on the floor that perfectly mimics dinosaur footprints. There's also this stegosaur species, and I think it is Trichondansaurus, though it is a bit unknown since I didn't get the picture of the sign, though I definitely know the name of this next dinosaur. This is an Australopithecus, a large Raptor, which is a carnivorous dinosaur that instead of using its jaws, it uses its claws to kill, and is actually one of the top predators of Australia. So yeah, this is actually an Australian carnivore, Trex, though it's not really that impressive in terms of dinosaur size, but it can still probably rip you to shreds. And to be honest, it hasn't really appeared in much. However, it did appear in Jurassic World Evolution 2, and it even has its own documentary, that being Dinosaur Stampede. While it is pretty nice, there are other carnivorous predators, but before that, there are some other exhibits, like these teeth, a evolutionary chart showing how birds become dinosaurs, and the stuffed emu. Now, onto the megatooth shark, Megalodon. And there's also a few diprotodons here, but we're here for the great shark himself. Still an impressive pair of jaws you have, Megalodon. I managed to cover this creature when I went to the National Dinosaur Museum in Canberra. But now, let's look at a more recently extinct animal, the Phyocene, or the Tasmanian tiger, as it's more better known as. If the name doesn't give it away, the Tasmanian tiger is obviously from, well, Tasmania, but in the ancient times, during the age of the mighty Diprotodon, they were everywhere, but
due to competition with dingoes and the climate. They were only found in Tasmania, where they served as one of the only large predators there, since Tasmanian devils weren't really, well, predators, but due to human interference, mainly killing them for protecting livestock that they really did not eat, and habitat loss, the Tasmanian tiger or thylacine went extinct. However, there are programs on bringing back this ancient creature. Who knows, maybe in the future, a real-life prehistoric paradise will have these creatures roaming again, and maybe they'll be back in the wilds of Tasmania. Though I still find it pretty cool that this museum has 2 Tasmanian tigers. After that, we have some ancient mammal remains, and I'm probably not going to go through all of them, but there are some species I would like to talk about, like Diprotodon. Diprotodon is one of the largest marsupials to ever evolve, around the size of a rhino. It might have served a similar purpose as elephants and rhinos in their respective ecosystems, one of the largest herbivores of its time, and it is very popular, appearing in a few Jurassic Park games and sub-documentaries, such as Monsters Resurrected, where it was prey to Megalania, Prehistoric Assassins, which it was basically the same thing as the last documentary, and the 2 Jurassic Park video games, having Jurassic World the game and Jurassic Park Builder, and its most famous appearance, in my opinion, Zoo Tycoon, and it's pretty nice. Now, the next creatures are these giant kangaroos. I think this is supposed to be the short-faced kangaroo, though I cannot be sure. The same with all these other fossils. However, there is one I identified pretty well, the marsupial lion itself, Phyaccoleo. Phyaccoleo, or the marsupial lion as it is called, is one of the most famous predators from Australia and marsupials in general. While Megalania was more the top predator and this creature was more like a leopard, it was still pretty cool. And it has appeared in many series, and it is basically like a leopard. And its most famous appearance so far is Ark Survival Evolved, but it has appeared in other games, like both Jurassic Park builders, that being Jurassic Park Builder, Jurassic World the game, and even Jurassic World Alive. Though its most recent appearance is in Prehistoric Planet, where it will appear in the 3rd season, and I hope it will be pretty good. I mean, this design is nice. Anyway, now let's go on to the aquatic area of this museum. This aquatic area is pretty nice, not only with these stuffed coral, but with something else that I would like to show off, that being this holographic coral. It's very lifelike, especially to the shrimp. Quite a bunch of pretty coral. I want her! Yep, it is crawling over this metal, but still pretty cool for humans. Indeed, my shrimp friend. However, there are other things, like this beautiful painting of a coral reef, which is pretty cool. There's also several stuffed fish and even a manatee, along with some other creatures. And the sea life section is pretty cool, though compared to some others it doesn't really have some big sharks, but I think they have some dolphins. Anyway, we now have this little nocturnal / desert area. I cannot fit into that cave, but some younger kids can, and these are some truly creepy cave dwellers. And if we walk over here, we can see the more deserty region of Australia, with some models of various birds, reptiles,
and even an echidna for some reason. And this is all pretty nice, I have to say. And there's even some nice artifacts from a long time ago. And here we have a wall of various reptiles. And I like that Parenti Guarana. There's also some frogs. And now we go into some artifacts as well. And some small mammals. Anyway, we've been covering a lot of creatures. But the next section will be different. These stairs, which are actually pretty cool to be honest, but just down these stairs is the mineral / asteroid section of the museum, and some of this stuff is actually quite interesting, but I'm not much of a researcher into minerals and stuff, but I think some of you would be quite interested in seeing this, but I have nothing really to say. Well, except for one thing at the end, which will be shown soon. This little machine actually shows water currents around the area, and it's pretty cool. Nice hologram projections. And I think it would be quite useful for other things. This area is more focused on what we have done, starting with, well, the pioneers that came to this country all those years ago, with some other stuff like that whalebone, all the way up to some televisions and even some video games. There's even a copy of Mario Kart 64 and an Atari game. So if you want to play those, come here. There's also one of the best things, an entire blue whale skeleton, which is just hanging here. It's been quite popular, and it's definitely one of the more impressive sights. I wonder how a certain shrimp thinks about this massive creature. Well, it is definitely bigger than those sauropods. I don't know how much. Then again, it's probably as bad as those. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I also kind of like these little art pieces that show Australia as it is. And, ooh, looks like we have some uninvited guests. There's also this cultural thing, but I haven't really explored it. Anyway, that is everything that is being shown in this museum. And I think it was pretty nice. And, well, I guess the last thing to truly show is the exit, which isn't too far from the entrance, to be totally honest. And
hey, what about us? You didn't film us when we were going into that museum in the first place.
Unfortunately for you, Product, there was a show happening.
That is not the point. It's meant to be consistent, you overgrown man-child.
Wait, where is your shrimp?
Talkadox? I do not know. I wonder where that guy is. I wonder, huh?
Product, run!
Talkadox, they are and oh, crud, run!
That's what you get, you stupid shark and shrimp. And now, let's really talk. I would just like to say thank you for watching, and I have a little proposition. I'm writing and filming a very big film, but I need your help. Anyone that is familiar with Red vs. Blue, I need your help with this. Contact me on my DeviantArt and we might get something done. But anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and bye!